Hi there, this is Yannis from the Arcweave team, and this is a tutorial on the Arcweave plugin for Godot game engine. In this episode, we'll go through our Godot example game and see how we can use Arcweave data for dialogue content, inventory handling, and character configuration. We first need to download the Godot project from its GitHub repo. We can find the link for this in this video's description, and actually if we go to Arcweave's GitHub, we can find this under Arcweave Godot example. So here it is. If we go to code, download zip, so once we download our file, we find our zip file and extract it and see that it has our project, and we now need to import that in the Godot engine. So if I go to, let me just drag this into my Godot folder, call it tutorial Godot example, and I'll just drag it here. So now if I go to my Godot folder and look for tutorial Godot example, I can import it. Yep. So since this is the first time we open it, like before, the plugin won't be enabled. To enable the plugin, we first need to build. This warning we disregard. We simply reload the current project. And now we can check and see that the plugin is now enabled. Right. Now, before we run the project, we must first connect with the Arcweave project that we'll be fetching from. So let's have a look at that. Our Arcweave project, the one that we'll be using, if we go to Arcweave, let's get out of the castle. Our example game will use data from one of our template projects. Arcweave now has a new project templates menu. If we go to our My Projects page and click New Project, we get our templates menu with some options to start a project from scratch. We use the interactive fiction example, which is, of course, our familiar castle project, create an interactive movie example, or use the game engine example. And this is the one we will be using in our Godot tutorial, and the same we're using in our Unreal and Unity tutorials. So let's create that. When it finishes starting up, the project opens. We can see it's a small project with a few components. It has 3 characters. Drake Miles is our PC. Wanda and the healer are 2 NPCs we can go and talk to. It also has one main board called Starting Board. This is it. And it has 2 dialogue boards. One for Wanda and one for the healer. Finally, it has some global variables, the health of Wanda, the healer, and a boolean called have potion. So now we must connect this project to our Godot project. We've already seen how to do this by exporting the JSON file. To quickly refresh our memory, we do this from Share and Export. Go and click Export, then we go to Engine, Export for Godot, and this will give us a zip file that we must extract and get our JSON. Then, when we go to our game, we already have in our resources folder, Arcweave resources folder, we have a story which now is empty. And this is where we need to access the JSON file. Okay, we've seen this method done in the previous episodes. But in this episode, we will look into our other option, the use of Arcweave's WebAPI to fetch our data into Godot. This method will actually allow us to perform story updates during runtime with one click, and even more from the exported game as well. So to do this, to set this up in our Arcweave asset inspector, we must first set our receive method to WebAPI. And now we need to fill in these two fields here, the API key and the project hash. For the API key, we must get the API token of the project's owner, and that owner must have an Arcweave team account. Getting your API token is a team account feature. Pro and free accounts can use the previous method of exporting the JSON for Godot and importing it with the receive method set to file. So if you are in a team project, you either need to get the API token of the owner, or if you are the owner, go to My Account, Show API Token, copy to clipboard, and then paste this inside the API key field. The project hash is this short part of the project's URL that comes right after app project, this one. So we copy this one, so double click that, and this is it. Copy and paste in the project hash field. And now we're ready to perform our first request by clicking the Initialize Arcweave Asset. And yes, we have successfully refreshed from API. And we can see that our story resource now has a dictionary of size 14, and it's loaded with the game engine example. Indeed. So now, having loaded our data, we can play the game. Let's click play. Okay, so here's our game. We have our main character. Our player character can just move around this deserted place. There's a temple. Can jump or walk. And approach characters. And when we approach a character, we get their name and their health bar. So this is Wanda. And we can start our dialogue. Etc., etc. There is also a settings menu. If we press escape, we get to our settings menu, and this has the API token here, which is now fetched from our inspector. The project hash, again, same, fetched from our inspector. We get the project name, which has been fetched from the project settings. Game engine example. And then we have two buttons. One is to save these API token and hash, this pair, in our local drive, and then they will get automatically reloaded every time we open the project. You can certainly implement this differently, but for the sake of the example, this is how it's working. And then there is a button that fetches data using the displayed information here. So let me just save this first. And now if I change this to something that is just bogus and fetch, I get an error, of course. But if I restart, I get again the correct ones because I have saved them in my local drive. Then we have the player settings, and restart, play, and quit buttons. So if we properly play this story, we go to the healer. Greetings, traveler, may I help you? And we can ask for help. There's a girl by the road in grave danger. Do you have anything to heal her? Oh my, but of course, here, take this healing potion. And now we get this item, the healing potion, added to our inventory. And the dialogue is finished. We can talk again if we want. Can you give me another potion? Hi there, could you perhaps give me another potion? I only had one vial of it, I'm afraid. And now we can go to Wanda, examine her, and give her the potion. And we can see her health increasing to 70%, and there is a getting up animation that gets triggered, and she stands up and says thank you. Well, that was it for this episode. In the next one, we will familiarize ourselves with this example's scenes and scripts. If you find these tutorials helpful, please subscribe to Arcweave's official YouTube channel. You can find us, the Arcweave team, hanging out on our Discord server, or you can just follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn. I'm Yannis from Arcweave, thanks for watching, and let the games begin.